welcome to the latest episode of the B Movie Club. I'm your host Kevin, and this week we're going to be doing the 1993 action classic Hard Target from 1993, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. For those of you guys joining us for the first time, each week we'll discuss a B movie, something from the action, sci-fi, horror, comedy genres. Nothing too heavy, usually something kind of light and fun. And feel free to send in your comments, questions, and movie suggestions to Twitter at KD9575. We've also just started a Facebook page for the B Movie Club. Go ahead and search for that and like it, which I don't just mean emotionally like it. I mean, please just click the button that says like, although emotionally like it as well. If you search for it, there's evidently a German Facebook site, also called the B Movie Club, but it's called like B Klugen the Klube. I don't know. I don't speak German. That was about as good as it gets. Don't like that one, or like it, but also like mine. Also, don't forget to go on to my YouTube page, KD9575. You can also search for that, the B Movie Club. And don't forget to subscribe. It is absolutely free, but emotionally you'll get so much back each week. Anyway, thanks again for joining us. Hard Target. Basically what's going on here is there's a police strike going on in New Orleans. So it's a very lawless city, or more so than usual, let's say. There is this game that goes on from time to time where the wealthy will hunt these homeless people because I guess that's more fun than hunting other things, perhaps. Two mercenaries have this job. Basically, it's a business where millionaires can come in, pay them money, and they'll basically be set up with a homeless vet, somebody with actual combat experience, Marine Force Recon, Special Forces, things like that, who are down on their luck, hence they're homeless. And they offer the homeless people $10,000 if they can make it through the city to the river, alive, essentially. If they make it, they get the $10,000. If they don't make it, well, they don't make it. So, a woman comes to town looking for her father, who she's lost touch with over the years, and discovers that he's gone missing. She discovers he's homeless and he's no longer there. He was actually one of these homeless vets that was killed in the opening scene of the movie. So she's upset, so she's looking for first her father, finds out he's dead, but then her father's killers. She doesn't know anything, but luckily there's another homeless vet named Chance Boudreau, played by Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's homeless, formerly Marine Force Recon. He's also a merchant seaman, and he needs money to catch a boat, I guess, basically. So he agrees to help her track down her father's killer. So they ruffle some feathers. The bad guys are onto them, and then they see Jean-Claude Van Damme, and they realize, hey, he could be our last hunt. So I don't want to give away everything that happens in the movie. But bad guys decide to hunt him, and they don't succeed. They lose. I guess that's spoiler alert. Shocker. Anyway, this movie actually represents the first American movie, I should say, directed by the famed Chinese filmmaker John Woo, who reached international acclaim with such movies like Hard Boiled and A Better Tomorrow, all the Chow Yun-fat Chinese action films. So the studios were like, hey, why don't we try to work with him? He found this script, Hard Target, and he liked it. He said, I'll direct this. Now, the studio was a little concerned because John Woo didn't speak really much English or any English. So they had Sam Raimi, our patron saint, who directed such things as Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, and more recently the Spider-Man movies. they had him on standby, and Sam Raimi was like, "Hey, I'll come hang out, but I have total faith in John Woo that he'll be able to do it." And he never had to step in. Now, there were times where John Woo had difficulty communicating with like his cinematographer, things like that. So he'd have to use like phrases like, this is the Sam Peckinpah shot, to try to give the cinematographer some idea of what he was going for. And evidently that helped. Now, obviously the problem was exacerbated because Jean-Claude Van Damme, I know this is going to come as a shock, English is not his first language either. So there was some disconnect. And actually when he decided to be in this movie, they had to kind of rewrite the script because, believe it or not, this is one of those first movies where, hey, we've got an action star with a crazy accent. I guess we need to kind of deal with that. So they moved it to New Orleans and said, hey, he speaks with a crazy accent. Let's just say he's Cajun. Because a Belgian accent sounds so much like a Cajun accent. At least in my experience, it's a big difference. Anywho, it's a good times. Prior to that, people would just be like, I'm a cyborg from the future. Don't mind my crazy accent. Yeah. This time they tried to deal with it, so kudos to them. So, people who don't know a whole lot about Jean-Claude Van Damme, there was always some issue about whether he was actually a martial artist, because I guess earlier in his movies, like a couple years earlier, he like injured some stuntman because he didn't know how to throw a punch or something like that. Evidently, they've discovered he was some kind of kickboxer or something along those lines. So that's good to know. I know we were all very, very concerned about it. This was at that point in his career where he no longer had to do kind of the tournament type movies. Like his earlier movies were Bloodsport and Kickboxer, where it was just, hey, we have to go fight in this tournament. This time he's more of like, I'm, jumping over the hood of cars and I'm shooting guns and things like that. For some reason they gave him this crazy, greasy Billy Ray Cyrus mullet. I don't know what the thought process was. Anyhow, I mean, it's the craziest hairstyle, although it was beaten a few years later when Nicolas Cage did Con Air and he had that crazy hairstyle. And let's be honest, pretty much any Nicolas Cage hairstyle from there on out beats this one, so good times had by all. He's Chance Boudreaux, and as my buddy Alan said, one of his favorite lines of this movie, they're like, why do they call you Chance? My mama took one. I don't even want to know what that means. What does that mean? That his mom hooked up with a trucker on the road one night and took a chance on not using contraception? I don't know what it means. Nobody wants to know. So anyway, what's funny is the movie obviously took much longer to finish because of these kind of little issues that popped up. And then editing the movie, they had to go back and re-edit it like 6 times to try to edit out all the excessive violence, because they kept trying to give it an NC-17 rating, and they didn't want to go with that. They're like, we obviously want an R, so they kept having to edit it. At one point, Jean-Claude walked in with his own editor, his personal editor, and cut a version where like entire characters are eliminated to make room for more close-ups on Jean-Claude. He later said, like, people pay their tickets to see me, not Lance Henriksen, who plays the villain. Lance Henriksen, you might remember from, he was Bishop in the Alien movies. He was in other things like Near Dark. Go back, you've seen him. He's been in a million different things. He's a fun actor as well. The other villain is this South African actor named Arnold Vosloo, who you might remember from the Mummy movies. He was the Mummy. I always find it interesting when they have these actors who are kind of nebulous ethnicity that they play, okay, well, you can be Egyptian, or you can be Mexican, or you're Scottish, or, whatever. You can be any ethnicity under the moon. That's how Dwayne Johnson, who's Samoan, gets to be the Scorpion King, who's, Egyptian. Good times. Anywho, good times had by all. If you have not seen it, I'm not going to go so far as to say I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. I had issues with the fact that, like in the final scene, there's a lot of, I'm Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I'm shooting guys, and then I'm going to kick them. Shooting them wasn't enough. You got to kick them too. Or I'm going to kick you and then shoot you. It's like, I imagine if you're in a gunfight with people, you're not going to take the time to like, okay, I got to do a flying crescent kick as well. You know, I'm dodging bullets, let me kick you. Just use the gun and be done with it. Good times have by all. Anyway, on Rotten Tomatoes, they gave it a 50. Yeah, the critics were not a big fan of this. They felt Jean-Claude's acting was particularly wooden. The plot was kind of reheated. It's actually vaguely based upon an old story called The Most Dangerous Game, where people hunt people. So there you go. You know what I mean? Yeah, his performance was positively Keanu-esque, but what are you expecting? Come on. Anyway, it is streaming instantly on Netflix. It's also available in a double whack pack with Sudden Death. There you go, at any flea market, bargain basement. Next week, we'll be doing This Is Spinal Tap, comedy with Michael McKean, Christopher Guest, directed by Rob Reiner, one of the first mockumentaries that went on to directly inspire things like Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, those kind of movies. It is streaming instantly on Netflix, so feel free to check that out. Send in any of your questions, comments. You can tweet me, like I said before, at KD9575. You can also visit my Facebook page. Please post anything there. You can also post things on my YouTube page. As you know, I end every episode with my favorite totally out of context quote. And here it is. It seems our trophy is ripping us a new orifice. Forgive my crazy Scottish accent. For some reason they made the South African guy Scottish. He couldn't just be South African? I don't know. Thank you again for joining us. Next week, this is Spinal Tap, and be well.